Hey guys,
Hey.
welcome to another episode of Symphony's Walk with Grace.
Hi, we decided to come out here on the porch. It's a beautiful Colorado day. It's still the beginning of January and 45 degrees at like 11:30.
This is winter.
So,
There was snow like 2
yeah,
days ago,
yeah.
and now we're like, ooh, it's nice.
I love Colorado for its sunshine. So, but one of our differences, here's Symphony with her sunglasses, and here I am just, oh, please, more. So,
Yin and yang again.
yin and yang, yeah.
So today's episode, we're going to be talking about
what the cosmos.
Yeah.
And, we'll get a little
cosmic energies and how they
Yeah.
affect us and
How
how to
they
be
affect
aware
us.
of them.
yeah. On our last show, we were talking about free will,
Yep.
and it just made me realize, when we were kind of talking about, I mentioned guides. We talked a little bit about, God or the ethers or whatever, that how much we would like them to kind of take care of us, but we also want our free will. And how does that work? And I do think there is a predestiny to our lives, and you can find it in astrology if you're into that kind of thing. I'm sure you'll find it in other ways, but we certainly as humans talk about being predestined.
And I do want to add something here too. I personally believe that yes, we are predestined, but depending on which path we take, there's a bunch of options for the outcome. So it's not like it's like no matter what, you're going to end up right here. But depending on which path you choose, the destination itself is predetermined, but that depends on how you go. So I believe that there's like a variation of options available depending on which way you decide, which route you take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's all about your free will has everything to do with those thoughts and feelings.
And I feel like that's a misconception when everyone's like, it's predestined. It's predestined. Like, especially when you're feeling down, like, well, how is this predestined? I feel like crap right now, you know? Why would that be predestined? But understanding that the predestination doesn't necessarily limit to one thing also kind of gives us a relief of, okay, we do have some control here.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, not only that, predestiny kind of makes you feel like, well, this isn't what I really wanted to do, but it is what we really want to do. I think, and there's kind of talk out there, did we know what we were doing when we came here? Like, did we have any say in that matter? And I used to spend a lot of time on that, kind of wondering, did I know what I was doing? Why in the world would I pick the family I picked? Why in the world would I have picked some of the, god-awful things that have happened in my own life?
And for me, like, I definitely know I wouldn't have picked such a messed up body.
Right. But it's in her stars. I've seen it. I've been looking into astrology for a minute now, and they're what they have to do with maybe some of our lessons. It has to do with, So what is Symphony really here for? She's here to try to. What? You love to bring comfort to others. You love to share. You love to
give, teach.
Yeah, and teach. Yes, and what do you want to teach?
That there's always a way.
And that there's,
and that there can be a better way.
Lived.
And yes, cherish every moment.
Yeah.
I mean, even the bad ones lead to some of the greatest.
I have a lot of, physical issues as well. And
I'm just a giant medical mystery.
And
go team.
You've been given that as part of your learning curve. So how do I deal with this? How do I still love life in the midst of this icky stuff?
And you want to know what's crazy? One of the biggest things that has helped get me through so I'm going to share a little bit with you guys. the new year brings a lot of new energy. For some people, or for a lot of people, it brings reflection. I mean, that's the whole point of New Year resolutions, right?
Yes,
So
and it's the point of winter. We're supposed to be, kind of
focusing
hibernating,
inward.
reflecting, and focusing inward.
Yes. And so 2 years ago, on New Year's Eve, my other half and I, that thing was all over the place. Like, oh yeah, this game of Jumanji is about to end, Don't scream Jumanji, bad idea. I did it. The game just started, is what happened. Okay, so just so you know, don't do it. It's okay to laugh. I want you to laugh. I don't want people to feel bad for me. I want people to laugh. But I woke up the next day and literally couldn't move. I was half deaf in one ear. I had really bad vertigo. I had insane tinnitus. Equilibrium. Like, I would get up and try to go to the bathroom and just fall to the side. And any movement at all made me vomit because it felt like my eyeballs were just kind of rolling around in my head. And even just moving an arm from like here to here would make me sick. So I had to be babied, like all the way babied. I had to have help with everything. And in the process of this, I'm sitting here like, oh my God, why is this happening? Like, are you kidding me? How am I supposed to live like this? Like, what kind of life is this? This is not living. This is not experiencing. This is ridiculous. Like, and instead of sitting there and letting myself stay in a place of self-pity, which, don't get me wrong, it is okay to feel that way. All emotions are justified. It's what you do with it that matters. And we're pretty, I think we say that a lot. So, but at the end of the day, like, I took it inward and I was like, now hold on. I've always had a belief that people with disabilities were there for a reason. And that belief came from my mom. One of my earliest memories was, I think we were driving somewhere, if I'm not mistaken, and I saw a disabled person. And I said, Mom, why did God make disabled people if he's supposed to love us? Like, if he loved us so much, why would he make them so broken? Like, and her response was, honey, those are God's angels sent to show you that life can always be worse, but there's still a reason to smile. And the more that I've gone through my adult life, I have thought about that. And the more disabled people I meet, the more it's proven true. I'm like, dude, they're all just so joyous and happy and loving and like, just nothing matters. I mean, it's precious. It is precious. And it is pure. And so I've held on to that. And I'm like, you know what? If I have a disability, then that means that I'm supposed to teach people that it could be worse and teach them how to get by when it is worse so that it can be better. And that's kind of what gave me that mentality. So thank you. But that helped me a lot in getting through that. And so here it is 2 years later. I'm not using my cane as much. I'm not using the medication as much. My hearing has increased a little bit, but I'm still halfway deaf on this side. But like, I've learned all these methods and all these things and like, what are my triggers and blah, 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 blah. It took time. It took patience. And I don't know, that was part of my reflection this year was like, wow, I've come so far in 2 years from not being able to do anything at all to, look at what we're creating. And I've performed since then. I have put music out since then. I have done volunteer work since then. And it's beautiful, but it does take perseverance. And if that is set in the stars and that is my path, then I might as well run with it and take it to the best that I can and take it to the highest extreme that I can and touch as many people as I can in the best ways that I'm able. And so that's kind of, I know I kind of rambled with that for a second, but
that's okay. For me, it was a stark, well, okay, so, I kind of want to focus a little bit on astrology in particular. When I started looking into my chart, I was struck, and I started looking at it. I don't know, what was I, 54? So, but when I dive in, I usually dive in deep. So I've really been studying it. But the first thing that hit me was, oh my God, no wonder life is the way it is. It's in the stars. And the biggest thing it gave me was a sense of relief which is why I want to mention this, because before I looked in my chart, it is one of those areas. Last time too, we were talking about, feeling unworthy and deserving and stuff like that. And I used to really beat myself up. One of my problem areas has always been communicating. And there were a few years that I felt like I couldn't communicate at all. And, everything was mumbled, and I was having some lupus symptoms, and so I had a lot of
I was gonna say,
brain
I'm not sure if
fog.
you shared with everybody
Yeah.
what causes the communication.
What?
If you want to share.
Well, ultimately, it's coming down to, I saw some lupus. Definitely for me, anxiety. I start feeling, am I going to be able to communicate this in a way that people will understand? Or am I going to communicate it and people are, going to roll their eyes? Or, it really started with my family because my beliefs were so different. So I wasn't even allowed really to share.
There was a lot of judgment where we come from, and I mean, that's their beliefs, so we respect it, but it doesn't mean that it felt good.
And then I go looking in my chart, and there's a specific, we're kind of, the energies are out there, and I guess one of my goals would be to help you understand how real they are. So just take the moon for example. Our bodies are made up of 97% water, whatever. Think
a ridiculous amount.
So look at how the moon affects the oceans and the ocean waves. The same thing's happening in our bodies, and all you have to do is talk to any first responder, go to an emergency room on a full moon, ask your counselors, what happens around the full moon.
And I mean, it's very common. People hear, oh, must be a full moon, people are acting crazy.
We say that nonchalantly,
but it is valid.
But it's very valid. That's just one, cosmic, the moon, but
manifesto.
Yeah.
So, and on that note, if you can prepare for it, like I have a lot of friends that go through a lot of like catastrophes around the full moon.
Come up around the full moon.
I find the most peace there, and the reason is that I've taught myself, okay, you got to be prepared. Okay, full moon's coming up. That means the energies are going to be a little heavy. Yeah. That means that I need to be more understanding, more forgiving. I also need to be more patient
with yourself,
and gentle. And as a result, I wind up being the one that helps everybody through it instead of being the one going through it. Yeah. But if you're not prepared, it's like running into a brick wall, and then you're waking up going, where am I?
Yep.
What happened? I'm confused.
Yeah, and still you can be prepared
and still get smacked in the face, because that's happened too.
Yes. So, but that's just the moon. So we have, we're all the planets are revolving, and they're all bringing in their own energies and doing their own things, and so we have all this kind of push and pull, and that's part of that. I'm really big in the ebb and flow of things. To me, that is a big piece of the yin and yang. I'm gonna be happy and full of energy one day, and then the next day, boom, I'm down. And how do I manage? How do I get myself through all of that? Some of that is understanding that, when you feel that too will end, and you'll get back to feeling better. So that's one thing. But I look in my chart, and there's one, it's called the Chiron, and that's basically wherever it's at in your chart is the thing that you need to heal. It's what you're here to heal. And when I was talking about predestination, and that it actually is your heart's desire, it is my desire to heal my family. It is my desire to not repeat that cycle. And so I've been doing all that stuff and didn't know it was in my chart.
Well, and what's crazy is, don't I have something similar? And like, because I have somewhere that I'm going with this, but I can't remember exactly. I think I had something like similar to that. Like,
Sure, I'm sure it is. I can look on my phone real quick.
Yeah, because you had sent me a picture. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
I did. And what's crazy about it is that who gave that to you? Was it you got it from Grandma, right? The binder.
Yeah.
Okay, so from Grandma, she was given a bunch of papers, and it was some stuff that my great grandmother had typed out, and then a stack of family history. And these papers were so old that everybody was like terrified to touch them. So I threw on some gloves and I sleeved everything. And then I've been going through and doing all this research. And when I was in middle school, I remember having a research paper. It might have been like the first year of high school, where we had to do digging into our family heritage. And we had gotten to there, and I approached my grandma and I was like, hey, what all do we have? And she's like, oh, we don't talk about it. And I was like, what? I was like, Grandma, I got it. Like, it's an assignment, though. I don't want to fail. And she's like, it's bad. We don't talk about it. And I'm like, but what do I do then? Like, I've got it. So she finally opened up. She felt bad. And she's like, man, I don't want my granddaughter to fail because we don't talk about it. So she opened up. And turns out somewhere in our bloodline, we're related to one of Hitler's top people. Or that might have been on Dad's side, but I think it was on our side. So I found out that we're also related to Robert E. Lee. What they don't put in the history books is that he heavily mistreated his slaves. He was very aggressive, very abusive towards them. And so it's actually been kind of a long-running, like, not so joking joke that, like, maybe our family's cursed or something from back then. Like, but at the end of the day, with her not wanting to share that, what is she doing? She's allowing the cycle to repeat, right? Because we're not learning from it. And so when I got this binder, well, it's in a binder now. When I got the papers, I started looking, and I'm like, what else is back there? Like, what don't I know about? What can I prevent from happening again? What can I learn from? I don't know. So for me, digging into the roots it's a very fun experience, and I really enjoy history, and I really enjoy science and stuff like that, and genealogy. So I've been digging into that stuff and like sharing with them what I find as I find it as well. And it's been a really intriguing experience, I think. And I don't know if that was like predestined or not, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, in mine, something about cycle breaking, I believe.
Yeah, cycle. Yeah. For me, mine, and this is an interesting dynamic I think that we share. Yours is you want to go deeper, or you want to go further out. I want to stay just within my my biological family, and then you girls.
Yeah, the ones that she's familiar with, the ones that she's gotten to know, whereas I want to go back to before that.
She wants to go, where I stick very honed in, but that is definitely part of my chart. I like to really dig deep.
In a specific area, whereas I like to dig deep in a broad formation.
Yeah.
In everything.
In everything, yeah.
Even art, like I paint, I draw, I do special effects, I model. We're working on my first outfit. I'm really excited. We're sewing that together. I mean, I do all kinds of stuff. I have poetry. I have a novel that is hopefully going to be put out eventually. I'm trying. So I mean, it's so different that like she focuses on one, and then I'm like, no, broad spectrum on everything. And it's something I'm actually trying to learn, because someone told me, like, you can be good at a bunch of things, but you got to pick one or two if you want to be great at anything, and make that your primary focus. And that's something I struggle with, that I admire that she can do that, because it's something I'm trying to learn.
Yeah. And I admire, and this is where, those kind of opposites attract. And I learned from Symphony that I got to get out of my hidey hole. And I do find pleasure in that, but I have to be careful with my own energies, because in my chart, it's very obvious that I need a lot of alone time to recoup, but to study, because I love to study. I'm a lifelong kind of learner, and so I find a subject and I dive deep in it, and I don't do anything else. It's like that subject is all I'm doing. So
whereas I'll be sitting here doing my research with TV playing, holding a conversation. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I can't do that.
So. And a lot of that is my anxiety. So part of what runs my anxiety is that my brain goes like 20 different directions all at the same time, and I lose everything. So I suck at multitasking, but I'm also fantastic at it. It's really weird.
At it, yeah. as I was looking at my chart, the two things that came to mind was oh, that's why I am the way I am, and I'm learning it. It relaxed me because I'm like,
I think both of us kind of learned to understand ourselves better.
yeah,
And it made sense.
and
It
really
did. It
be
truly did.
okay and be okay. And as I started to be okay, I realized I am doing exactly what I'm passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent a lot of my life doing other things, thinking those were important, when what was really important is is my family, and then my children's family, and my home life. And that's what's important. So, and I've been fighting it most of my life. Well, now that I've realized, oh, no, that's what you want. What's in your stars is predestined, is your passion. So get to know it.
Yep.
Because then you're not all over the place like I was, or feeling bad that I wasn't out doing this or out doing that, or out making loads of money, or trying to really build careers and stuff like that, when I realized, no, my children are my world. That is my world.
I've
So
tried to back out
be
of singing so
passionate.
many times because,
And
like,
she
I
keeps
mean,
going back into it.
one of the worst things in the world is to be on stage. And let me tell you, I love music. I love variety, and I'm not a fan of certain genres, but that doesn't mean that I can't still appreciate the artistic quality and the soul that goes into it.
Yeah.
I've been the guy on stage that has had chanted at you, "You've up, you've up, you've up." And there's nothing worse than having an entire crowd of people chanting that in your face. So I have tried to back out of music a couple times, and my soul won't let me.
Yeah.
My soul drags me back.
Yeah.
And if I ignore my soul, an external source drags me back. Because the ethers know, hey, dude, you're supposed to send some messages. Now get off your ass.
Yes. Yes. So understand that you have free will, in that you are making your own decisions, and you are, your free will has more to do with, your feelings and your thoughts. But the energies are always helping you head in the direction of what your stars show. So
Which is the most success that you'll see in your life.
That's
I
right.
truly
Absolutely.
believe, like, if that's where you're meant to be, you're going to
Absolutely.
see the best success. If you're not where you're meant to be, you might see some success, but it might not be near as extravagant.
Right. And then you can relax into it, and you can
Trust.
You can go, and you can trust, and you can feel, you feel better about yourself. I feel better knowing that where my place is, and that where my heart thought my place is really my place.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to flourish more because I'm relaxed into that.
And
So-
my stars show that I'm supposed to help others like that. That's also written in the stars. And one of the things that I struggle with is, like, being as physically broken as I am. Thank the Lord and the goddess and the ethers and whatever's out there that I have the man that I do, because he does help take care of me, and he does help take care of my kids. And I cherish and thank him every day, because for me to be able to follow where my stars are written is not necessarily as easy as, like, just go and apply for a job. It's I mean, my stars are written in art, and let's be honest, you got to spend money well before you start making money in art. And so I really struggle with not feeling good enough, which our last video is inadequacies, so we already covered that. But that's one of my areas of inadequacy. And once I learned that it was in the stars, that helped me lean into it and trust, okay, so if
lean
it's
into
written,
it.
there's a plan,
There's a
which
plan.
means that I will be okay. And it will work out if I pursue this,
Yeah.
even though it's hard right now. So I might not have a lot of play money at this point in time, but I do have the ability to create still. And I have the comfort of knowing that my man supports what I'm doing. He loves to see me create. He loves to see how it changes my internal energy, which in turn changes my external energy. And I'm more pleasant to be around because I've got my release. And a lot of times what I've noticed is what's in the stars tends to be a release. Like, if, say that you're meant to be like an EMT or something, I don't know, you save 10 lives that day, you go home feeling pretty dang good about yourself, right? Like, but say that you decide to settle for phlebotomy. I mean, you poke people all day. Like, not saying that that's not a necessary job and that it's not a great job. And yes, it is very much needed, because without phlebotomists, we wouldn't have blood work and results. But you could be making a more difference by chasing that EMR and knowing that you're saving all these lives if you're willing to let yourself go there. And that was just like a spur of the moment example that hit. But so right now I'm trusting that there's a plan and allowing myself to lean into my other half to help me get there, knowing that it will happen. And I firmly believe in speaking it to existence. Like, we've already talked about, I love my cartoons and stuff, okay?
Well,
Happy
you spoke
Feet.
Jumanji.
I did. That was a mistake, though. That was one of my biggest mistakes.
We are powerful beings. And
yes,
what
and
we
I
put out there
spoke it
comes
into
back.
existence. Let me tell you. But Happy Feet 2, one of the characters, he says, if you wish it, will it. If you will it, it will be yours. That really stuck with me. I was like, and I love that they're teaching this to kids, because you do have that power. Like, and we're not saying that you could just be like, I'm going to go, one of my other dreams, forensic science. I can't just be like, I'm going to be a forensic scientist and it'll happen. I still have to take the steps to make that happen. But the more you speak it, the more you believe it. The more you believe it, the more that you start pushing, because you realize that you can do it. And so speaking it into existence does help you reach those goals as well. And so having your chart read and knowing, like, okay, I am on the right track, that really helps push it into existence.
Yeah. And, there's a lot of talk about, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my purpose is. Look in your chart.
Yes.
Dig into it. There's a lot to a chart. I think that's what stops us from looking into astrology. One, we think it's all hocus pocus. Well, hopefully I helped you with that a little bit. Don't forget what I said about the moon and how just that even affects us. But there's a place in your chart. Well, charts can be very daunting. It's like, where do I start? So one of the cool things that I've done that I would like to share is I've created kind of an interactive chart, and I'm very visual. And
we'll probably do that on our next video, and I'll have her read me.
Yeah, and I'll do symphonies for you, kind of, in front of you, so you can see. I've come up with a way to get
Simplify.
into it, to simplify. I'm really about simplifying, so I'll dig in and dig in and dig in and dig in and go really deep for the purpose of, now how do I is there a way to simplify this to give it back? Because I recognize not everybody's going to go spend 100 hours looking in their chart.
Not everybody can,
and nor do you want to.
Right.
And I don't blame you. But so there's a couple really in particular pieces in your chart. It's all important, but there's some for me that are very relative. And one of them is called your North Node. Your North Node is what you're trying to accomplish in this life. Your Chiron is what you're trying to heal. And then your North Node is where you're trying to head, what you're trying to produce in this life, what you're trying to experience, what your soul really wants to experience. And for me, it's creating It's creating a loving,
nurturing family,
environment, in particular in my home, which is my favorite place to be. And most people, when they visit my home, I hear it all the time. Oh my gosh, Cheryl, I just love coming to your place. It's so calming in here. And I'm like, thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to produce, not knowing I was trying to produce it. So.
And I did it knowing I was trying to produce it. I have a lot of friends that have nowhere to go on holidays, so I open the doors.
So she opens the door.
And for the most part, I just maintain the open door policy. And I have 2 rules. You don't bring drugs around my house, and you don't come in on drugs. That's one rule. The second rule, and that's, I have kids. I got to be careful. So, and the second rule is that you drop the drama at the door. My house is a safe place for all. So I try to also be conscious, like, okay, this person doesn't like this person, so let's separate the time. But they also know that should I forget, just walk away.
Yeah.
It's a safe place for everybody here.
Yeah.
And so I think interesting, again, yin and yang, that she did it unintentionally, whereas I intentionally created that.
Yeah.
And everybody says the same thing. They're like, man, I feel so welcome. I feel loved here.
Yeah.
I feel loved.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, and we'll dig into your chart next time, but I'm pretty sure, I want to say you have a lot in house 7.
That sounds
There's
right.
houses, and then I'll explain later. Okay,
It'll
so
make sense in the
it'll
next
make
video.
But for Symphony, it's a lot about relationships. And for me, it's more about family, which is why I'm very family oriented. And Symphony is very, she just wants to, I love everybody and enjoy everybody, but really my purpose is to.
She likes the quiet too.
The
Focusing
care
on
for
the
the
family
family.
gives her the time to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
And I'm more chaotic. I'm like chaotic neutral, back to the nerdism side. But for me, I think it's really cool because I think we kind of trade off. Like, we learn from each other from our differences, which I think is what we're supposed to
This is
do
what
as
we're
people.
supposed to do.
Instead of judging them, I don't go, God, why don't you get out more? Jeez. I'm like, oh man, nice night in. You enjoy yourself. Love it. Cherish it. I'm glad you get it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go to this concert. and
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
But by learning from each other, like, once she saw the open door policy that I have, she was like, wow, that's actually really cool, and when I saw how the extent she went to give us the life that she did, that made me realize a lot as well. I learned a lot from that as well, and a lot about like self-worth and boundaries, and so we teach each other through our differences, and I think that is a vitality as a human being to create a peaceful existence around you.
Yeah, and we'll have to, I definitely want to do a video on that subject, that positive,
so
negative,
too.
the attraction, and the, how we attract opposites as well as similarities.
And how do you work
and
together?
how we work it together. Yeah, because we oftentimes in relationships will fall in love with an opposite. Because we want more of that.
Mine's a homebody that likes to game, and I am a social butterfly that likes to go out and do stuff.
Yeah, they had to figure out how to make that work.
No, we're still trying, but I mean, we're getting there.
Yeah, usually it's a work in progress. But a lot of times, the thing that attracted us together as a couple, or whether that's friendship, whatever, eventually we get so fed up with it that then we.
Yep. So for example, mine likes to stay home and play games. Cool. He's not going to go to the bars and cheat on me, right? Except that he likes his games. So I had to find a way
So she had to find a way.
okay, what can I do to still interact with you so you could still do your thing? And we'll touch on it more, but like it really came down to a mutual agreement and honoring and respecting each other and trying to find a compromise. I mean, compromising is a lesson as a child for a reason, because it truly does make a difference.
Yep.
And by doing that, we strengthened ourselves instead of pulled away from each other.
Yeah. So look into your chart. I highly recommend it, and we'll try to produce one where I kind of share
My story.
a fun. In kind of a fun, simple way to kind of start looking into your chart, getting some ideas about it. So I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
on a closing note, just remember, ethers and stars and the moon, I mean, you are water. So if you take nothing else out of this, just be gentle on yourself around the full moon, okay? And be gentle with others.
Yep. And know that those energies are working, and they're working for your benefit to help you really fulfill your purpose here. So,
Yep. So, and we'll touch more on the moons and stuff as well, I think, and the, how everything kind of works as we go. But for now, here you go. And we hope it gives you some benefit.
Yep. Take care.
Thanks for joining.